Welcome to Tea Time on Tatooine. I'm your host, Anna Trumbo. And welcome to another review of Skeleton Crew. This time we're going to talk about episode 4. I don't know if calling these reviews is really accurate because I'm not exactly saying like 5 out of 5 stars or 2 thumbs up or whatever. It's more just a op-ed, I suppose, on Skeleton Crew. Episode 4 was fantastic. Might be my favorite one so far. Spoiler alert, it's mostly because there's so much Neil in it, but it goes beyond just how adorable and precious he is. So let's get into it. We open with our heroes on approach to a planet that they believe to be At-Aten. And as they're coming through the barrier, all I could think was they are for sure going to get shot out of the sky. Like a planet that is this obsessed with self-preservation and being hidden from the rest of the galaxy has to have anti-aircraft defense protocols. But sure enough, did not. They did have like an auto landing sequence engaged, which I wonder if that was planet specific, like that ship had been there before, or if that was just something that the ship would have had on any planet, like it's just a pre-programmed landing sequence. I'm not sure. As it turns out, that ship had been there before, but that's not something we find out until much later in the episode. It does become very clear very quickly that this planet is either not At-Aten or not the At-Aten that they are familiar with. My crazy Doctor Who brain immediately went to, oh my God, this planet is like time locked. And when they left, time inside of the planet went forward at a much faster speed. So the planet really was in the time of the High Republic. And 200 years have gone by, and now the planet is abandoned and post-apocalyptic. And that's just kind of where my head went, because time travel is always the answer to me. Not in Star Wars, so I was incorrect in that. I did think it was interesting Jod mentioned that this reminded me of his home planet. And just a little curious side note, where is Jod from? I am interested to know a little bit more of his backstory. We may not get much of that in season 1, if any, other than just what it was that brought him to the circumstances in which he now finds himself. But as far as like biographical history, where he's actually from, we may or may not find that out. But just an interesting side note that it did pique some curiosity. I do actually have a note in here that says, were they in the High Republic actually? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 question marks? Well, no, but you know, hey, it could happen. I wanted to point out again, I've said this several times before, and it does definitely come into play a little bit later in the episode, but SM-33 is really scary for what appears to be no reason, other than I guess he's like on a pirate ship, so it would make a little sense that he's scary, but he is really frightening and just creepy in the way that his joints like unlock to lengthen his limbs to make him better able to fight. Yeah, it is a little scary. I was dying at the babysitting sequence. Nick Frost is a genius. I know he didn't write this, but his performance of that little moment was so funny. Just the humiliation of Jod. Don't make me start counting. It did make me wonder, though, as a droid mate on a pirate vessel, what need would he have for a babysitting sequence? Is that something that they maybe programmed in from a nanny droid in order to keep prisoners imprisoned or restrained? Not entirely sure. I would assume they would have used something a little more frightening or intimidating for that sort of thing than babysitting sequence, but nevertheless, it was very funny. But he does let slip the name of what we learn this planet actually is, which is At-Akron. Interesting. Okay. As always, Wim is dispossessed of any situational awareness. He just does not seem to know where he is at any time. He is absolutely that person in your group of friends who will either get you into a fight or get you killed. Love him. So sweet. Such a dreamer. Amazing. Wonderful. Definitely a liability. So it's good that he has the other people in this group that he has in order to kind of rein him in from doing things that could actually put them in serious jeopardy. I don't know, like pushing a button that launches a spacecraft into hyperspace away from their planet and the safety of their families. Stuff like that. Then we meet a group of what appear to be insurgents, kind of unclear what their greater role is in the context of the rest of the civilization on the planet. But it was the first time that I can really remember, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, hearing French accents that aren't Twi'lek people. I don't think that's in any way, shape, or form relevant, but just an observation that I made. And this gets us into another kind of Doctor Who-ism. It's a visit to a planet. Doctor Who, for those of you who haven't seen it, oftentimes every episode, for the most part, the Doctor will visit a different planet and somehow interact with the native people of those planet. Even though the Doctor claims that they're not trying to get involved, they always end up getting involved. But this is pretty standard Doctor Who fare. Going to a planet, two different factions, locked in a constant state of conflict, the Troik and the Hatton. And there's even a bit of like a moral of the story that the characters take home. If this were a season with more episodes, I think this would actually be a really fun thing to explore. Like on their way home, they visit all these different planets, each time thinking that they're approaching their own home. But as we learn in the end, there are so many different at-blank planets, at Aten, at Akron, and so on and so forth. And yeah, if this was like a 16-episode season, could visit all of them on the way back and see what the different outcomes were of these different planets that were, I guess, experiments that were hidden away from the rest of the galaxy. Like alternate timelines, you have the same starting point for all of them, but then where do they end up? And what are the events that occur to take them down those different paths? It would be interesting. We don't have a long enough season to do that. Unfortunately, I would love more episodes, but I have a feeling this is probably going to be the only detour in this vein. Now, I had thought that the French accents were just going to be explained away because the actors playing those parts happen to be French. The actor playing Hannah, the kind of main character that befriends Neil, is from Kansas City, Missouri. So I guess it was a directorial choice to make the people of that planet, at least the Troik, speak with that particular accent. Again, this isn't relevant. It was just an observation. I think accents in Star Wars are fascinating. What they mean, why creative teams choose to make them the way that they are, I digress. There are a lot of really funny moments in this episode, like a few more actual laugh out loud, haha moments. Of course, there was babysitting sequence, but Jod's response to being held up by the Hatton when they ask, what flag do you fly? And he drops to his knees and says, you know what, just shoot me. Had me cackling. He is such an interesting character. Really can't wait to learn more about him. But the delivery of that line is fantastic. I do like that Hannah takes a shine to Neil here. When they are kind of doing weapons trainings for the other kids, Neil doesn't seem really interested. He's from a planet that doesn't have to fight. They are a peaceful people. And Hannah, I think, sees his discomfort and takes him to the roof. She does so by grabbing his trunk, which is a little like, I don't know, if you're not familiar with the species, that might be like incredibly taboo and offensive, but Neil doesn't seem to mind terribly. When she does take him upstairs, he sees a couple of kids sitting who look maybe a little hungrier than he is, and he offers to share his rations with them. And here we get the main theme of the show. Now, I have Ashton joining me a little bit later in this review to break down the music of this episode, so I won't get into it too much here. But I do think it's interesting that Neil gets a lot of this main theme, and it's something that we're going to talk about plenty later on. So put a pin in that. But it's a really sweet moment for him. And then he and Hannah go sit kind of on the edge of the building and have a really nice moment where he completely unselfconsciously talks. He is not shy about who he is. He is not trying to be someone that he's not to impress this girl who clearly somewhat intimidates him, and her whole way of being with all the fighting makes him extremely uncomfortable. But he's just so wholesome, and it offers her a glimpse into his world. And initially her response is, you must be from a very weak clan if the only fighting that you have is playing this game, where I don't know what that game is, but I really did enjoy the hand motions that accompanied it. But it's just heartbreaking the way he's reacting to seeing all of these other children around him fighting, when in their world, they don't have to fight for anything. And you can tell that it's really impacting him deeply, and that he doesn't think it's right that these kids should have to fight. And his thought is, just say you're sorry, stop the fighting. And then tells this adorable story of getting in a fight with his little brother, where he falls on the credenza, and sprains his trunk. Oh my gosh. But she, I think in spite of herself, is really taken with him and finds herself laughing and enjoying what is probably a very rare moment of levity for her. I think she's starting to see maybe that there's a different way, that there are alternate ways that children can grow up in the galaxy, that not every child has to grow up as a warrior. So I'm really enjoying so far watching the dynamic between the two of them. I know some people had said it seemed like a little bit romantic. I disagree. I think that they just found each other very compelling, and that it was a more nuanced friendship type of vibe. But hey, that's just my take. But it is telling that at the end of that interaction, she says, "I've never met anyone like you before." And it seems to get the wheels turning in her head. I did think a couple scenes later when they send them into battle without armor or helmets or anything, and they have the kids leading the vanguard, like, great, they treat the kids as they treat adults, but they're not going to like put the adults in front of the kids in the line of fire. Some questionable decisions made here by the Troik. And Neil is struck with just paralyzing terror and he can't even move forward. But Hina comes to join him. He admits to her that he's terrified, and she says that it might be easier to face with a friend. And sure enough, Neil takes one step, then another, in what is truly a pretty monumental moment for him, overcoming this fear that only moments ago had him in its grasp so tightly that he literally could not walk. So I really enjoyed watching that, even if I was terrified of their imminent demise. There was also a really just cute moment where he's like prepping for conflict and his little trunk tucks in as if to make him like more aerodynamic in battle. Oh, just on top of how delightful he is as a character, he's still just so cute. But no, it's not the enemy. It's Jod, arrived to save the day with the herd of missing animals that were taken from the Troik. Seems like everything's good. All of the kids rush over to thank him, and the girls, who are a little stronger with critical thinking, are both in the "you saved us" camp. Like, they actually thought, based on what they've learned about him, that maybe he would have taken off without him or done something to save his own skin. So they're genuinely surprised that he came to their rescue. The boys, of course, just like run over and hug him. But you can see that he's moved a bit by both the boys' and the girls' reaction, which I think sets up more that he's going to have a little bit of a redemption arc where you're like, okay, you're not just a scoundrel, you can do the right thing. That's kind of what I get from that interaction. And I think despite himself, he's becoming somewhat attached to these kids. It's not a shocking development plot-wise, but with battle averted and the herd returned, the kids are allowed to visit the Fallen Sanctum, which, as it turns out, is in a building that on At-Aten is the Supervisor's Tower. There is so much more interesting stuff that we're going to learn about, I'm sure, about all of these different At planets and who created them, what happened to make them turn out so differently, where did the blueprint for these planets come, because it's obviously the same, at least on these two. You know, you can't know for sure about the other ones, but it's a pretty safe assumption. As they're walking, though, it does come out that Jod stole money from Wim out of his sock. And yes, he did it to save their lives. Yes, it had a positive outcome, but it's a second point at which Wim becomes a little bit more disillusioned with the Jedi, which I think also sets up the option for maybe his father to take the hero role in his eyes. I don't know. I know that his dad has like a much deeper role to play and a much more interesting backstory. A little more on that to come. But as they are parting ways with the rest of the Troik, and specifically Hina and Neil have the most sweet goodbye. Having spent time with Neil and understanding his point of view and where he comes from, both literally and figuratively, she is starting to see the potential for a different world on At-Aten, a different way of growing up, a different, potentially more peaceful future. So as much as she has influenced him and kind of made him understand that you can be brave and still be afraid, he has also influenced her deeply. In this short amount of time that they've had together, they've both made significant impacts on each other. It's incredibly moving to see from both sides, and she gives him a kiss on his cheek. There's this like rushed zoom in before she gives him the kiss, and then when she walks away, there's this incredibly cinematic slow pan in, and like the wind is blowing in his adorable hair, and he just looks so happy and excited. And then she runs away and does some parkour for absolutely no reason, and it's just great. I guess it's not for no reason. She's kind of showing off, and I guess she's also just feeling happy that maybe there's a future in store that doesn't involve constant battle. But for Neil, someone just saw him. They saw him at his most vulnerable, at his most authentic, and they accepted him and valued him. And I think that just meant the world. It was a really special moment for Neil. More music, more stuff we'll get into a little bit later. Anyway, I was incredibly moved by all the parts of his journey during this episode. So now our heroes are approaching the Fallen Sanctum. This is where we learned that the experiment, whatever the experiment was, clearly went wrong on this world. We're not sure how, but it did. This is also where we learn about all the other planets, the At planets, At-Atu, etc. We don't know how many there are. I don't think it ultimately matters, but definitely more than 2. And you see all the coordinates for the different planets until they get to At-Aten. And then, of course, the coordinates are missing. And this is where we find out that Smee has, in fact, been here before, and that he removed those coordinates on purpose and had them destroyed. Fern totally has a breakdown. Wim, in an uncharacteristic moment of self-awareness, walks over to comfort her. I relate to her a lot here. As someone who is on the bossier side, especially as a kid, I was always the one who would kind of shoulder myself into the leadership role of whatever group I was in. And then more often than not, find myself overwhelmed by the responsibility on my shoulders. I completely identified with her in this moment so deeply. She thinks this is all her fault. She says Wim should have been the captain. Wim, who I feel like under different circumstances might have said, yeah, I should have been the captain, was very generous of spirit with her and does his best to make her feel better. And then Fern has a genius idea, going back to the first episode where she hacked her nanny droid to make it believe that she had been home the whole time when in fact she had only just arrived home moments earlier. Absolutely brilliant plan by Fern. You can start to understand why she might be top of her class. She is very, very clever. And this is where it all makes sense why Smee is so scary. I thought, okay, yes, he's on a pirate ship, but they could just make him look piratey aside from the peg leg that he has. But this is where he gets really frightening, and you realize that he has been programmed to literally dismember anyone who comes asking about At-Aten. And clearly her "I'm the captain" commands do not override what appears now to be his primary function. But just as he is about to descend on the 3 kids in front of him, he gets hit by a rock, and there is Neil. No weapon, nothing to hide behind, absolutely exposed, probably still terrified, but brave as hell. This was fantastic. Obviously, Neil is okay. Jod is able to hit the off switch on SM-33 fast enough. Neil faints, of course, adorable, but it was a really great button to end his little arc with. I do hope we get similar arcs with the other characters. We've gotten a good amount of Wim so far. I think we'll get a little bit more. Obviously, it would be fun to get like a more KB-centered episode and a more Fern-centered episode. Who knows if we'll get that? I really, really hope we do. But that does bring us to the end of the episode. So now I'm going to have the music breakdown with Ashton Sherritt. Welcome back, Ashton.
Yeah, thank you. Always a pleasure to be on Tea Time.
Always nice to have you. What an episode. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So much to unpack.
So much Neil.
Much Neil.
Yeah, it's some pretty awesome stuff and lots of like really cool musical Neil moments. We will be talking about it.
I'm extremely excited. I wish we had more time to actually just like talk about the whole episode and not the music, but I know we might as well just dive in though.
Yeah, might as well. It's gonna be hard not to like talk about all the other cool things. So
I know, it was so good.
Yeah, so good. Okay, well, let me just go ahead and share my screen as usual. I think everyone is used to that by now. All right. One really cool thing, I'm pretty sure we talked about the mystery theme.
Yeah.
And so we hear the mystery theme whenever they reach, what's the planet called? At
Akron.
Something? At Akron, that's it.
Yes.
Man, there were just so many different ones. At Akron.
Like, Ohio. Okay.
I know. So it's cool. We hear the mystery theme when they land and they're like, yo, what is this? So here's just kind of some clips of that.
It tastes like ashy dust. It's a lot like my home planet, actually.
No, wait! This isn't home! Look!
So you kind of hear it like there's like all these dissonant strings and stuff, but then you hear that mystery theme like in the low harp, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was just kind of cool. Like, oh yeah, we're still getting that mystery theme throughout the season, just like we anticipated. Like this is a pretty identifiable theme. We're probably going to be hearing more of it. So just cool to like be like, yeah, we were right.
It is a theme. It's not just a one-off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just kind of cool. Let me do this one next, and then we're going to talk about Neil the rest of the time.
Amazing.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So Wim, we talked about, like that magical moment of his in the brig whenever the key like floats in. He's like, "You're a Jedi,"
Mhm.
and like we get all the like floaty, warbly stuff, right? It was kind of interesting whenever when he's like kind of let down that his credits were stolen by
Yeah.
Jod, and we kind of like see him like slump his head and like start walking with everyone. I don't know. It was just like, oh, like poor Wim. He's kind of like, oh, like this is not the Jedi like thing that I was hoping for. And I don't know if this was supposed to be part of that, or if this cue here was supposed to be like more like mysterious, since they're approaching the supervisors, like the sacred sanctum, maybe. I don't know.
Fallen Sanctum. The
Fallen
Fallen
sanctum.
Sanctum.
Yeah. So that thing, yeah. But yeah, we get kind of like some magical elements. Like it's more like in the bells, but it just reminded me of that like kind of like warbly magical stuff. But I don't know. See what you think about this.
Fallen Sanctum.
It's their version of the supervisor's tower.
Whoa. On that end, no one's allowed up there.
Just that little like
Yeah.
the bell things really like Harry Potter-esque.
Yeah. It does kind of call back to the end of the second episode where it's like, you're a Jedi and all of that
Yeah.
whimsical. Yeah.
I don't know. It felt like kind of a stretch, but just worth mentioning, I guess. Like we'll keep our eye on, because I'm sure Wim's going to be let down many other times for the rest of the season. So
Yeah. They're
Well-
setting that up pretty solidly.
yeah, we'll just keep an eye on that. Okay, cool. So yeah, now we have got to talk
Neil.
about Neil. Dude,
Yes. Ah.
Neil is just the best. So
Oof.
this is really cool. We actually, during this episode, I realized that the theme that I've been calling Wim's theme, it really is more like, which I think we talked about this last week, it really is more like the kids theme. And the reason I say that is because we get it so much with Neil this episode.
Mhm.
And, as opposed to like having it just with Wim during like the first couple episodes. So the first time we kind of hear it with Neil is whenever he gets like today's ration and gives it to the little kids. Here's the cue for that scene.
Are you guys hungry?
Right. So that same, it's like that same chord progression, like the same, in the same key and everything that
Yeah.
we've been getting this theme. So that's pretty cool. So
Yeah, I was wondering
then-
actually, I'm glad you brought that
Mhm.
up because that was something I noticed during because we'd been calling it Wim's theme, but even in
I
the very,
know.
very beginning, when you first introduced it as like the theme, you said like it's this or Wim's theme, kind of to be determined. So no, I
Mhm.
think we'll likely get moments with Fern and KB in future episodes where they have their own, moments with the Skeleton Crew theme, that whatever we want to call
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, maybe that's
It's
the
not
best.
just Wim's.
No, it's very much not just Wim's now.
Yeah,
Which
it's
is
the kids.
really cool to like lock that in. Like, okay, this is the Skeleton Crew's theme. Yeah, it's just that was really cool. The next time that we get this Skeleton Crew theme or kid theme, whatever we're gonna call it, is when he's sitting on the edge of the building or the school
Mhm.
with, oh man, I forgot her name. I
the
forgot her
French
name, but
chick.
yeah, the French soldier
Yeah.
chick.
Yes.
So
That was
this
in promo
is-
photos. So I was excited to see like, oh, there it is. Because it was
Oh,
in
cool.
so many,
Oh,
like
that's
photo
amazing.
packets of Neil. Yeah.
Nice. I didn't.
Mhm.
I did not catch that actually. So this was a total surprise. All of this. So yeah, we also get Neil's theme. I'll just play this cue really quick. This is kind of like the tail end of that scene of them. I'll just play the whole cue here.
You should listen to me. You know, the one fight I was ever in was this one time my little brother Jorka stole my protractor, and I chased him all around the house until he jumped on my head, and I fell on the credenza and sprained my trunk.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he totally beat me. Even though he's about half my size.
I've never met anyone like you before.
Dude. All right. So
I'm just grinning like an idiot, and he's not even on screen. I'm just
I know.
listening. I can't
I
keep
know.
this like insane person grin off of my face. He's so wholesome. I just want to
It's
bottle
ridiculous.
him up. Yeah.
I know. Thank props to that kid, man.
Oh my gosh. Nailed it.
Yeah, totally nailed it. So and so yeah, let's check this out a little more in depth. So once again, like we're in the same key as the Skeleton Crew theme. It's gonna take me a minute to not call it Wim's theme. But yeah, the Skeleton Crew theme, like we're in those same two chords, same key and everything. But what's really there's actually something new that's happening with this theme during these Neil scenes. There's something new that's introduced here. And
I chased him all around the house until he jumped on my head and I fell in the credenza and sprained my trunk.
okay, it's right there. So okay. Sorry, everyone. I'll try to explain this as best as possible, but really quick, we have them playing this. Like the strings are holding out this note, and we have the this chord going back to the one chord, right? So let's just listen to that again really quick.
Until he jumped on my head and I fell in the credenza and sprained my trunk.
Are you serious?
Okay, so this is so sick. What they're playing, so like what the strings are playing there on top of the same chord progression we're getting is this. And then the chord goes back to the one, but the strings land here. So we get this. And this note is the major 7, which like you don't, I think I say this like every time I talk about music. You don't need to really know what that means, but just know that sound. It's very different than like this, right? When you introduce that major 7, you get a different, like it just adds a layer of emotion, right? So, which really quick, just to like kind of demonstrate that, I'm going to pull up this app. It's called Synthesonics. It's really cool, but basically this app shows the emotional context of music depending on the harmony that's being played.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. So for example, like if I just play a major chord, right, we just hear like, yeah, it just says positivity. So yeah, we hear the sentiment column says positivity. If we introduce the major 7, we still have positivity in there, but we have the addition of the major 7, which introduces the sentiment of yearning. And so we haven't heard this yet in Skeleton Crew. When it comes to the Skeleton Crew theme, we haven't heard yearning in the theme. It's always been, if anything, it's been this actually. Enchantment, the sharp 11.
Yeah.
Right. And reassurance. Actually, yeah, and then it goes here. Right? So there's no yearning in that. But here, whenever we freaking get this, oh, it's so good. When we get this with Neil talking to this chick, let's see if you can hear that major 7 in the strings.
Chased him all around the house until he jumped on my head and I fell in the credenza and sprained my trunk.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That note?
Yeah. Yep.
That's new. We have not gotten that yet. And it's like when this is happening, which is just so magical. And like, I don't know, just like them obviously having like the chemistry. And then, well, I'll play the rest of this because this is whenever he like kind of like scooches closer, which is so cool. I'll just play the rest of this.
He totally beat me. Even though he's about half my size.
I've never met anyone like you before.
dude. Yeah, they just keep doing that yearning thing here. And I don't know, man. Like it's just having that introduced here was really special because like Neil deserves this, like he deserves like a
Yeah.
unique thing that stands out. And yeah, I don't know.
So this is, I mean, one of a few, but definitely one of the main reasons that I asked you to do this for every episode. It's stuff exactly like this. So when I was watching and listening and hearing I guess we can call it the crew theme, because the skeleton crew theme makes it sound like it's the show's theme, but I'm talking about like it's the four of them. It's their theme.
Yes,
and maybe
sure.
Jod will get his own little like version. But we've heard it in the context of Wim. We've also heard it in like the adventure and the sneaky version and the pirate version.
Mm-hmm,
but this, as I was watching it and I was hearing how it was a little bit different, mostly the same, but a little bit different, I was in my head like, is this Neil's flavor of the crew theme? And then are we going to get Ferns? And then maybe there's a different emotional, maybe there's a different, it's not the major seven, maybe it's the blah blah other note. And then maybe KB's is something different. And each one of them has a little bit of a different, that's what I'm hoping. But I'm really glad you brought this up, because that was kind of what I was like, oh, well, I'm sure Ashton's going to have some, thought behind this. So, but yeah, I think this is Neil's version of the crew theme Neil Redux.
Dude, it so is. And we're like, just get ready. It very much is. This is very much Neil's thing.
Because you hear it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, man. And so yeah, like that's happening while they're like sitting on the edge there. Like I just think that's like the symbolism of that, and just their conversation is just so good. And then musically, we're hearing that. Then we get their whole like goodbye scene. And so we hear this theme again. Here, I'll just play the cue.
My world could use some kindness.
Neil, hate to interrupt, but come on, move your trunk.
I don't know what to say.
So we hear that, which is beautiful, amazing, great. No like extra notes there. And then we have whenever she kisses him, and the iteration of this theme that we hear, it's like not the theme itself, it's like all of the harmony underneath, and it's all arpeggiated by the cellos and stuff. So listen to this. Right. So we just get like a lot more motion happening, and like, stuff's like simmering underneath, the little like, like snippets of melody. So that's cool, like, oh, yay. And his face during that,
it's such an epic zoom in. It's like the wind is blowing, and it's so, it's just incredible.
And like his eyes, like pupils totally dilated.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, it's funny because like clearly his heart belongs to Runa, as we know.
Oh, that's her name, Runa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, that's the little girl on the girl on Adadin who he has a crush on.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
His heart belongs to Runa. She's the little green fuzzy one who's so cute. Who's almost as cute as he is.
Dude, you're right. I forgot
his
about
heart
that.
belongs to her. But this person that he's kind of in awe of and intimidated by and a little scared of, and she sees him and appreciates him and values him, and then like they have this connection. And I don't think it's necessarily romantic, like, oh, he's gonna pine after her, but it's just this like, oh, she saw me and I mattered, and I wasn't weak, and I wasn't like a waste of space, and I wasn't scared. She made me not scared. Like,
yes.
That's getting me worked up, because it's just like there's so many different flavors of relationships between boys and girls, and it's nice when someone takes the time to like not just say it's a crush or it's a, you know, yeah, it was really beautiful. I just have a grin this whole episode because it's so much
Me
Neil.
too.
So I apologize to everyone if I just look like I'm on drugs.
Yeah, I think everyone will totally agree and have the same reaction. So what everything you just described, you all listen to this. This is when Neil throws the rock at SM-33. Listen to this junk.
Leave him alone!
So the major seven, right, that we had introduced here, that had that like element of yearning or that sentiment of yearning introduced, we get it in like full, but like full orchestration, like full fashion here. So I'll just like play it again real quick.
Leave him alone!
It's so amazing. Like we get like just that is just so powerful. And like with that yearning in there too, it's like everything you just described, he obviously like has taken with him, and like we're seeing it on full display here. But and then like this crew theme that we've been getting, which is like in like kind of like plinky bells and stuff, usually we're getting in like blasting trumpets, which is so heroic.
It's so triumphant. Yeah.
Yes. And so, and if I'm not mistaken, like this is the first iteration of the crew theme that we've had that is heroic like this. No, it is different. And you know what? Whenever Wim is in the turret, we talked about that last week. When he's in the turret,
Right.
it's in the French horns, which is like
Yeah.
super heroic. So yeah, I
But
kind of
this
take
is a
that back,
different,
but
this is like a
this-
quiet heroism. It's different. It's got a
Well,
different,
right. But like with the major seven in there, it's totally different in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like Wim's was like whimsical, LOL. But this with Neil is just like there's
yeah.
just so much going on with this one. It's I don't know, the introduction of that major seven note, that yearning element is just so
Yeah.
sick. So yeah, I'll just play the clip again because it's amazing.
Leave him alone!
Yeah, man. It's
Ugh.
just so good.
It's so good. When I say quiet heroism, I don't mean literally quiet. Like, it's loud. It's obviously like triumphant and everything. But like,
Right.
he's not in a turret. He's not behind like guns. He is just him throwing a rock. Like, he's not armed. He is by himself. He is as vulnerable as he possibly can be. Like, there's something that, plus the addition of the major seven. So like all of these were things I clocked, like it's the same but different. That's the same but different. That's the same but different and triumphant. I need someone with the vocabulary and technology to make this make sense. And so thank you for doing that.
No, totally. I'm just so pumped to like have all of this. And yeah, I'm really excited to do a breakdown video of Neil's. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess it's just a lot. I still need to like think about like what all of this means. We're just gonna get more of it too, I think. But yeah,
I know.
Neil's journey, so sick.
Well, I know I mentioned it, I think last week, where I was like, I'm going to commission you, quote unquote, to do a full, like a breakdown video of every version of the crew theme, the Wim's version, the sneaky version, the pirate version, the creepy opening credits, the do, that part, like Neil's version, presumably soon to be Fern's or KB's version. Like, I'm so excited that he's just using this like tofu. It's just, it fits everywhere. It, takes on the flavor of whatever it's next to.
I know. It almost makes me want to do like, what would be the term? Like like try to guess what he's going to do, like harmonically different for Fern and for
Yes.
KB. Like,
actually, would you share your screen again with
Oh,
the
yeah.
what is it? Centisonics? something?
Centisonics. Yeah.
Centisonics.
Yeah.
I think we can get, but let's look at the different things. Okay,
Yeah,
so
sure.
Defiance. That's my pick for Fern.
Really?
I'm guessing. Yeah, I'm guessing
Okay.
Defiance.
Oh, wow.
That's my guess. I'm putting.
It
Oh,
would
ew.
have to be something like that, like really nasty. Yeah.
Okay, maybe not. That's ugly.
Yeah, I mean, we have like you can make really nasty things
I just
that.
think of Fern and her relationship with her mom, and there's so much defiance there, but she's, yeah. So Fern, my guess would be Defiance, and this is based on nothing musically. This is just based on the emotions or the vibes on the
Mhm.
screen right now.
Yeah.
And KB,
Hmm.
KB.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I'll have to like sit down and experiment with that, and maybe we can revisit this next week.
Yeah,
Because I'm sure we're gonna get another iteration anyway. But yeah, I'll have to sit down with this and experiment with this.
wild. Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what? I think I changed my mind about KB. I'm going, and again, this has nothing to do with any sort of musical expertise or knowledge on my end. It's just about like what I would imagine their emotional addition would be.
Mm-hmm,
Like, okay, with Wim, it's enchantment. With Neil, it's yearning. I'm guessing defiance for Fern. I'm going to guess unease for KB because she's very much like in my comfort zone. This is what I know. This is logic. This
You're
is
right.
whatever. And like, she's the one that's up in the middle of the night and is like, I ran the odds. Odds are you're not a Jedi. I don't trust you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be. So those are my official guesses.
Yeah.
On record.
Yeah, it's got to be something that's just not, not that.
Yeah.
I want to sit down
Leave
with
it to the
this.
girls to have some like really wacky, funky, gnarly chords.
Well, like for example, like the mystery theme, which goes like this. Right? Like that collection of notes. We have, so like for example, a minor chord, but then whenever we add that this note, we get that, and then we add another note. So like, yeah, it's going to be something nasty, I think, harmonically.
Yeah.
If it's gonna have defiance in there or unease,
I love it.
It's gonna sound like it, so we'll see.
Watch, we're completely off base. Like
yeah,
next week they're completely different themes for both girl. Like who knows?
It could be, or it could be a matter of changing instrumentation, like
yeah,
it could be the same exact harmony, but just different instruments. So
very true.
Like KB's could be all like electronic-y stuff or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I want to know like how in what way is she a cyborg? Because she's definitely a little bit a cyborg.
Mm-hmm.
Like slightly.
Yeah.
It's not a headband that stays on her. That's like plugged into her head.
Yeah, it seems so anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, this was great. Sorry, I think I talked way too much. I was just so excited about
Neil.
I know.
Yeah.
His friend. He found his bravery.
I know. And just to get that musically is just so sick.
Yeah, it was really special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Amazing.
Well, I guess I'll see you next week.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks for joining. May the force be with you.
Always.
Just wow. So much fun musical stuff in this episode. I am so excited to see if we actually get little theme variations for the other kids. We'll see, maybe, maybe not. Either way, I am so excited about what comes next. I do wonder, though, how the ship ended up on Ad-Atten and what that has to do with Wim's dad. He did have what I feel very confident was a flashback moment at the beginning of the previous episode. Maybe he was the captain of that ship that gave Smee that horrifying order. Maybe he was a member of the crew who escaped the wholesale slaughter of the rest of the crew. Who knows? He definitely has more going on under the surface than just being a systems coordinator or whatever. But yeah, we'll see. Can't wait. Major kudos to Robert Timothy Smith for giving an inspired performance this episode. Because honestly, yes, Neil physically is very cute, but his personality, even if he were written as a human and performed by that same actor as a human, he would be only slightly less lovable. So much of what makes Neil special is his character, the performance, the way he's written, his lines, those little nuances, the eyes and the face and the trunk and the ears and all of that. It's great, but it's extra. So wow, maybe this is a review because 2 thumbs way up for that performance. I think that wraps up my thoughts for episode 4. So I will see you next week, and may the force be with you.